Remember 1978? Saturday Night Fever was still packing theaters, and we were all high off that little space movie that changed everything the year before. You know the one. Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, that galaxy far, far away that made every studio executive see dollar signs floating in space. So Universal Pictures looked at Star Wars raking in money and thought, we need one of those. What they got was Battlestar Galactica.
Attention.
$8 million of television ambition.
Positions and cover me while I take a look. Let me get my turbos.
That managed fight George Lucas in federal court and get interrupted by the president himself. All before ABC pulled the plug after one season. These are 20 wild facts about the space epic that tried to out Star Wars and nearly broke network television in the process.
Intercepting.
Fact 1. When Christmas morning became a parent's nightmare. Christmas morning 1978, while you were unwrapping $6 million man figures or Stretch Armstrong dolls, a 4-year-old was playing with his brand new Cylon Raider toy in New York. You remember those commercials, spring-loaded missiles that shot across living rooms, just like the real Vipers battling chrome-plated Cylons on Sunday nights. Only this time, one of those plastic rockets lodged in the boy's throat. 6 days later, he was gone. Mattel went from counting Christmas profits to facing wrongful death lawsuits faster than you could flip channels. Within weeks, every missile-firing Battlestar Galactica toy vanished from shelves nationwide. That tragedy rewrote toy safety regulations forever. Suddenly, every commercial had to warn about small parts and choking hazards. The space show that was supposed to capture our imagination instead captured the attention of personal injury lawyers and congressional committees. Think that was the end of Galactica's troubles? We were just getting started.
Apollo, I have a funny feeling about this. Well, we came to look.
Fact 2. The villain who died and lived to scheme again. John Colicos, the original Klingon Commander Kor from Star Trek, figured his Battlestar Galactica paycheck would be easy money. Show up, play treacherous Count Baltar, get executed in the pilot, cash the check, move on. In the theatrical version that played overseas, that's exactly what happened. But American television had different rules. Network executives looked at Baltar's death scene and saw wasted merchandising potential. Dead villains don't sell action figures to kids, begging their parents at Woolworths. So they cut the execution and turned Baltar into a recurring villain who'd spend the series plotting with the Cylons. Colicos went from planning his next audition to signing a season contract. The man literally died on film and was resurrected by network television. Pretty much how everything worked when 3 networks controlled what America watched.
How can you change one side of a bargain when there is no other side?
Fact 3. When President Carter crashed our space party. September 17th, 1978. You were probably settled in your favorite chair with a TV dinner, maybe a Budweiser getting warm, ready to watch serious Cylon blasting after a long week of gas lines and inflation. Then Walter Cronkite's voice cut through those epic opening credits. President Carter was making history at Camp David, brokering peace between Egypt and Israel. ABC decided real diplomatic breakthroughs trumped fictional space battles. And for 15 agonizing minutes, we watched handshakes instead of Viper dogfights. When Battlestar Galactica finally returned, half of us had wandered off to make Jiffy Pop or switched to the Love Boat. Nothing killed television momentum quite like evening news, interrupting your scheduled escape from reality. That's the thing about living through history. Sometimes it interrupts your entertainment when you least expect it. Fact 4. When television tried to buy a Hollywood movie. $8 million. When gas cost 63 cents a gallon and you could buy a new car for under $4,000, that was enough to fund a small city's annual budget. Universal wrote that check for one television pilot, and their accountants probably needed therapy. Most TV pilots cost about as much as a nice suburban house, but Universal looked at Star Wars, pulling in millions, and decided to build their own Death Star, complete with orchestras, massive sets, and effects that belonged in theaters, not living rooms, between Hamburger Helper commercials. The pilot was so expensive, they had to release it in movie theaters just to break even. When it hit cinemas with Sense Around, the audio technology that made earthquakes shake walls, audiences got their money's worth. Drive-ins couldn't handle the bass without rattling car doors off hinges. This was television, trying to compete with Hollywood at Hollywood's own game.
That is precision flying.
Fact 5. Cue cards and desperation acting. Universal pitched Battlestar Galactica as 3 made-for-TV movies, like Brian's Song or The Night Stalker. Plenty of time to craft scripts and memorize lines. Then ABC panicked looking at their fall schedule. Forget TV movies, the suit said. Make it weekly series. Start shooting next month. Suddenly, seasoned actors like Lorne Greene were getting fresh scripts hot off the mimeograph machine. Rather than delay production, directors placed cue cards just outside camera range, like a live Saturday Night Live broadcast. Watch those early episodes closely, and you'll catch actors' eyes darting sideways, reading their next line off cardboard. The space epic that looked like it took years to plan was held together by poster board and determination. Back then, the show had to go on, ready or not.
Why do those people want to hurt us? What do we do to them?
It's not what we did to them. It's what they fear we could do.
Fact 6. The lawsuit that outlived the show. George Lucas took one look at Battlestar Galactica and called his lawyers. Similar space battles, similar droids, similar hero's journey. 20th Century Fox smelled blood in the space water. The federal lawsuit began in 1978 and dragged until 1983, outlasting the show by 4 years. While we watched ABC cancel Galactica, lawyers argued whether Colonial Vipers looked too much like X-Wing fighters. Both studios spent more on legal fees than most entire TV series cost to make. The show died in ratings, but the lawsuit lived on like a legal zombie, shambling through courtrooms while we moved on to Knight Rider and the A-Team. Lucas proved that in Hollywood, the best revenge isn't success, it's litigation that outlasts your competition. Fact 7. When George Lucas repossessed his equipment. John Dykstra, the special effects wizard behind Star Wars, had left Industrial Light and Magic to start Apogee. He took some of Lucas's equipment to work on Battlestar Galactica. George Lucas noticed his missing toys and demanded every piece back immediately. No negotiation, no rental agreement, no "we'll return it when done." Dykstra packed up the gear and shipped it to San Francisco, leaving Galactica's effects team scrambling to finish space battles with whatever they could scrounge. Universal's Heartland division eventually took over, but those early Cylon attacks were created under constant threat of losing tools mid-shot. Professional, but petty in that particularly Hollywood way. Fact 8. The show that played overseas before America. While we waited for Battlestar Galactica's television debut, international audiences were watching it in movie theaters. The pilot played in European and Asian cinemas throughout 1978, complete with intermissions and overpriced concessions. Foreign moviegoers got the full treatment: theater seats, booming audio, no commercial interruptions. American fans had to wait for ABC's version, then longer for the domestic theatrical release that limped into theaters in May '79. By then, the series had been on television for months, making the theater experience feel like paying to watch expensive reruns. Sometimes being the home team means being last to see your own game.
13th colony. This other world. Where is it? What's it called?
Earth.
Fact 9. When real astronauts became TV ghosts. The series finale needed something special to hint that Earth was within reach. Instead of hiring voice actors, the production team licensed actual NASA recordings from Apollo 11. When Galactica's communications officer picks up that transmission, you're hearing Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin's real voices from July '69. The same summer as Woodstock, when we all watched grainy footage of men bouncing on the moon. Those authentic astronaut voices carried the weight of history. For those who remembered exactly where we were when Armstrong said, "One small step."
It's one small step for man.
Hearing those voices again in science fiction sent chills down the spine. The most authentic moment in the series borrowed from the most impossible achievement of our lifetimes. Fact 10. Good ratings couldn't save expensive dreams. Battlestar Galactica premiered to solid numbers, But ABC saw only red ink. When you've spent $8 million on a pilot, solid isn't enough. You need spectacular. Then the network made the fatal decision. They moved it opposite All in the Family and Alice. Our space epic competed with Archie Bunker and Mel's Diner for Sunday night attention. Most of us flipped back and forth during commercials, but Nielsen families had to choose. The colonial fleet got obliterated by blue-collar comedy. The series finished 34th, good for most shows, but not for something costing more than feature films. When ABC announced cancellation, science fiction fans organized like an actual rebellion. But network television was about profit margins, not passion.
Core systems transferring control to probe craft. Launch when ready.
Fact 11. Emmy Gold for a dead show. The 1979 Emmys proved recognition sometimes comes too late. Battlestar Galactica swept technical categories, winning Outstanding Art Direction and Costume Design, beating established dramas that had chased those statues for years. Those Cylon costumes weren't just scary. They were museum-quality, wearable art. Colonial Viper cockpits looked so authentic, NASA probably took notes. Every set piece served the story while looking like it cost a fortune. Emmy recognition validated what fans knew. This wasn't cheesy sci-fi riding Star Wars coattails. This was legitimate television craftsmanship deserving respect alongside prestige dramas. But Emmy Awards don't pay production costs, and ABC had already moved on to cheaper programming.
The Imperious leader will be with us shortly.
Fact 12. When the Los Angeles Philharmonic played space opera. Composer Stu Phillips booked the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra, the same world-class musicians who'd recorded Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia, to perform Battlestar Galactica's score. While most TV composers use small studio bands or synthesizers, Phillips convinced Universal to spend real money on real violins. When that majestic theme swelled through our living room speakers, we weren't watching another TV show. We were experiencing something that belonged in concert halls. The difference between synthesized strings and full orchestra was like Tang versus fresh orange juice. Quality costs money, but sometimes it's worth every penny.
Yes, but we have a place to land. They do not, or will not, before long.
Fact 13. When TV episodes became theater features. After ABC's cancellation, Universal sat on 24 episodes of expensive content. Rather than let it gather dust, they edited episodes into Mission Galactica: The Cylon Attack, a 1979 theatrical release. The repurposed film added new footage and created a complete movie experience from television material. For fans who'd watched on TV, it felt strange, paying theater prices for familiar scenes. But for international audiences who'd never seen the show, it was their first taste of the Colonial Fleet's journey. Recycling at its most profitable. Taking small screen content and repackaging it.
I am to be
Spared.
Fact 14. International success story. Mission Galactica and the pilot's theatrical releases earned approximately $41.8 million in foreign markets. Not bad for ABC's domestic disappointment. European and Asian audiences embraced the space opera's family drama and spectacular battles, packing theaters while American executives programmed sitcom reruns. International success proved good storytelling translates across cultures better than network executives translate audience preferences. One country's canceled show became another continent's blockbuster hit.
You see? A logical explanation.
Yes.
Fact 15. After ABC's cancellation, Universal sat on 24 episodes of expensive content. Rather than let it gather dust, they edited episodes into Mission Galactica: The Cylon Attack, a 1979 theatrical release. The repurposed film added new footage and created a complete movie experience from television material. For fans who'd watched on TV, it felt strange, paying theater prices for familiar scenes. But for international audiences who'd never seen the show, it was their first taste of the colonial fleet's journey. Recycling at its most profitable. Taking small-screen content and repackaging it, American audiences knew Cylons as mechanical enemies, chrome-plated killing machines with glowing red eyes and electronic voices. But Glenn Larson's original concept was completely different. In the novelization and Canadian theatrical release, Cylons weren't robots. They were living beings in metallic armor, organic creatures fighting for survival, rather than programmed artificial intelligences. The distinction changed everything about their motivation. Were they calculating machines or passionate beings fighting for their species? American television chose the simpler, more marketable version that wouldn't confuse audiences wanting straightforward, good versus evil entertainment.
Cylons lured me into their deception once.
Fact 16. Inventing broadcast-safe swear words. Network standards prevented colonial warriors from cursing like real people during genocidal war. Glenn Larson solved this by inventing frack, science fiction profanity that slipped past censors while carrying emotional weight. The made-up curse satisfied network lawyers while adding authenticity to the futuristic setting. The invention proved so effective that later sci-fi series borrowed the concept wholesale. And speaking of creative solutions to network problems, if you're enjoying this dive into 70s television ingenuity, check out our MacGyver video about brilliant episodes that prove creativity could triumph over budget constraints. Sometimes the most creative solutions come from the strictest limitations. Fact 17. Building an alien calendar system. Larson created complete temporal vocabulary, centons instead of hours, cycles instead of days, yarans instead of years. Every time reference reinforced that these weren't Americans in space costumes, but authentic aliens with their own customs and evolution of language. The invented timekeeping added authenticity to casual conversation while reminding viewers this story took place in a completely different civilization. World building happens one vocabulary word at a time. Fact 18. Cold War paranoia reaches deep space. During peak Cold War tensions, a Soviet critic found American propaganda in our Sunday night space entertainment. An Izvestia columnist accused Battlestar Galactica of spreading anti-Soviet messages, claiming Cylons represented communist threats and colonials embodied American democratic values. The analysis turned innocent space opera into international political commentary. Soviet analysts saw Cold War metaphors in Viper squadron tactics and diplomatic negotiations. Whether Larson intended political subtext or just wanted to tell a good survival story, global audiences read contemporary conflicts into his fictional universe. Sometimes science fiction reveals more about current events than evening news. Fact 19. Instant multimedia empire. MCA Records released narrated audio albums simultaneously with the TV premiere, giving fans multiple ways to experience the space epic. Families could listen to Colonial Vipers engaging Cylons during car trips or in wood-paneled rec rooms. For a generation raised on radio dramas like The Shadow, audio-only storytelling felt familiar and exciting. The immediate multimedia expansion proved Battlestar Galactica was designed as complete entertainment experience, not just television. Fact 20. Richard Hatch's two-decade crusade. 21 years after cancellation, Richard Hatch invested his own money in Battlestar Galactica: The Second Coming, a 1999 trailer pitching networks on continuing the original series. Hatch's vision showed older Apollo leading new colonial warriors, bridging classic characters with contemporary production values. He campaigned at conventions and never stopped believing the original deserved continuation rather than replacement. Networks chose to reboot with a darker version, but Hatch proved that sometimes the most important battles happen in conference rooms, not sound stages. His dedication demonstrated the loyalty that only comes from being part of something truly special. Bonus fact: the robot dog's furry secret. Muffet 2, Boxy's loyal robotic companion, looked like sophisticated animatronics that would become common later. Except it wasn't animatronic at all. That robot was a trained chimpanzee wearing an elaborate servo-enhanced costume. The chimp had to learn blocking, hit marks, and interact with human actors without breaking the illusion of being an advanced artificial companion. The suit approach created television's most convincing non-human character, while keeping costs reasonable. Screen-used Muppet costumes now sell at auctions for thousands, where collectors pay premium prices to own TV history that once housed a very professional chimpanzee. Sometimes the best special effects are the simplest solutions. There you go, 20 facts about one season that dared to out-Hollywood itself and damn near succeeded. But here's what really gets you. Battlestar Galactica was just the tip of the iceberg. One jewel in television's most reckless treasure chest. Those years, pure magic. We witnessed TV's untamed frontier, when the networks threw caution and fortunes to the wind, backing wild dreams and praying lightning would strike. Every single show carried its own vault of secrets. The production disasters that somehow became triumphs, the quiet wars between stars that never made the tabloids, those split-second accidents that rewrote entire storylines. The late 70s, early 80s, television's golden gamble, its beautiful, chaotic roll of the dice. And we were right there in the thick of it, weren't we? Watching history unfold in our living rooms, one impossible episode at a time. There's a whole universe of these stories waiting to be told.